Paris Bernard. It's so good to have you with us, Paris. As you know, Paris, you and I, something in common. We're part of the "We were too good of debaters on CNN and got fired" club. Paris, it's a unique. We have a growing network of Trump surrogates who got fired. It's you, me, who was Jack Kingston. Who else got fired? Jason Simmons.
It's still, at the end of the day, what we know, John, is that we are an effective group of people who are advocating for the president, and sometimes they just don't want us there. But it's okay because we appreciate having platforms like your show.
We should start I was a Trump surrogate and got fired for CNN because I was too effective group. We should have like a party annually or something at the Trump Hotel. It's a growing contingent of us. I talked to former Congressman. This guy was a committee chairman, Jack Kingston. He was on forever. And he's like, as soon as I started beating him in debates, they fired me. It's like, yeah, it's the same with me, right? You have to get rolled and then you can stay. How about just one other thing on CNN? Who was it that said yesterday their legal analyst,
Jeffrey
Toobin, who was disputing their own poll and saying, oh, no, that poll can't be, that's got to be a fake poll. And it was a CNN poll. He was disputing his own poll numbers on impeachment. I mean, that network, what a clown show, right? Unbelievable.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
All right, Paris, I want to talk about the roundtable in Richmond that went on last evening, African-American roundtable, and trying to get black voices involved. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, look, we are in a wonderful situation with the campaign because unprecedented support has been given to this effort by the Trump campaign called Black Voices for Trump. Last night there was a roundtable discussion held in Richmond, Virginia, that dealt with a whole host of important issues. And in addition to that roundtable, this is almost even more important. There was a Trump Victory Leadership Initiative, which is sort of this training to help engage and mobilize African Americans for the 2020 election. And the RNC's Camilla Price was there, and Prince was there. And this is important because what we want to be able to do is twofold. One, get the message out using the collective efforts of all of those on the advisory board and in the coalition to inform the public, the voting public, and particularly the African-American community about the wins that President Trump has. And secondly, we want to train them and mobilize them. And that's why it's important to work with the RNC so that this national grassroots effort can grow. And so we want to continue to do this. And we had a fantastic launch. Last month, President Trump was there and Vice President Pence. And so we see a lot of momentum, and we see a lot of meaningful engagement coming out of the campaign at the direction of the president. And so it's a very good thing, and I think that we're going to be very successful in 2020, in part because of the active engagement that this president and this campaign, and through the RNC as well, is doing with the African-American community.
So, Paris, tell us about where you think this is going as far as percentage of black vote for Trump in 2020. And let's lay this out. Prior to 2016, I think Trump got, 8%?
Correct.
Of the black vote, right? Now, prior to that, the highest percentage, the biggest percentage ever of the black vote in modern times for a Republican was Richard Nixon, I believe, in 68, got 19%. I'm just going from memory, right?
Correct.
Something in there. And I think George Bush in his second term was around 7 or 8 or 9. So, and Romney and McCain were under 5. You look at the polling, you look at record lows of African American unemployment, teenage unemployment, lowest ever, youth unemployment, lowest ever. The number of businesses started by African American women, crushing all numbers that have ever been reported. What opportunity does Trump have with the black community in 2020? What percentage do you think he'll be able to obtain? Paris.
That's a very good question, and I think it's important that you gave the historical context to where we are in terms of the black community, because it's true. back in 2016, everyone was saying that the president was going to get 0% of the black vote.
That's right.
And yeah, he turned out getting 8%, which was better than Romney and better than McCain when they were the Republican nominees. And I think that when you look at the things that you've listed and other things that the president is doing, from his promises kept, promises made, promises kept agenda, I think he's going to do very well. And I predict that you could see double-digit support in the African American community in the reelection, because you look at the fact that the president is also, in addition to the things that you've named, he's doing things like the executive order that he did regarding kidney health. This is important, very, very important, because the African American community, when you look at the wait list of people trying to get these organ donations, African Americans disproportionately are impacted. While it's like 13% of the population is African American, we represent a third of the candidates on the wait list for kidneys. And the president is doing something to address this, to make it more cost-effective, more affordable, and to put more people in the donor list, living donors, almost 5,000. Then you look at, criminal justice reform and all these other things that the president is doing, HBCU support, unprecedented. And so the president can look to his record as the leader of the free world, and that can really impact us in a positive way. And so I think that the president's going to do very well. But look, he doesn't need to get 98%. He doesn't need to get 80%. He just needs to get maintain the support and then increase it in strategic places. That's why Atlanta is important. That's why Michigan is important. That's why Philadelphia is important. That's why some of these key states, and then you micro-target it down to these key districts. The president can move the needle with evangelicals, the things that Dr. Darrell Scott is doing in Ohio. When you look at the Deron Smith, the deputy assistant president just in Ohio, talking to the black community about the positive things the president is doing in the White House. These are ways that the president can move the needle, and you move it just by a couple percentage points in each of these key states, in each of these swing districts. It can make a difference, and I think it will make a difference.
I've only got a couple more minutes, Paris, but I want to get to the president's signing of the Historical Black College and Universities Bill later this week. And I've got to tell you that I'm a big fan of HBCU for a lot of reasons. One of them is that all my employees have come out of historic black colleges and universities. I've had tremendous success with them in recruiting for our company. So we cover that. But tell me about the significance of this bill that the president is signing for historical black colleges and universities.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, John, because the president's support for HBCUs has been unprecedented. And he said early on, the first month of his presidency, that he was going to support HBCUs and he was going to be a champion for HBCUs, and he's just done that. This bill is a very important bill. It passed in a bipartisan nature in the House and the Senate. It was co-sponsored by Senator Tim Scott in the Senate and Congressman Mark Walker in the House. And it secures mandatory funding for HBCUs and minority-serving institutions across the board for the next 10 years through Title III, Part F. And it's in the tune of $2.55 billion. And the president got behind Senator Alexander's bill to broaden it to 10 years of mandatory funding and FAFSA simplification to make that process easier for a lot of Americans, especially the first-generation Americans filling out these forms, which is riddled with error and could penalize them and hurt them in terms of getting the finances they need to go to college. So the president got behind Senator Alexander. He supported this bill, and the Republicans supported it, and the Democrats were supporting it. And this is just a prime example of, one, the president leading and showing support for HBCUs in higher education, and the president being willing to throw his weight behind something so that the Republicans and others knew the president supports this, so we can support this, let's get it done. And in this political climate, it is rare to see the level of bipartisanship on good legislation, but it's only because of the leadership and the pushing and the support of President Trump that things like this can happen. And so he deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do for the HBCU community and for higher education in general. It's a very good thing that he's going to sign this bill, and it's going to be one of the true testaments and hallmarks of his presidency when it looks at higher education, his support for this growing, important group of individuals, which, do good things and educate great Americans, like for the reason you've hired them. You look at a lot of the talent coming out of the schools, and it's the top lawyers, doctors, engineers, professionals, nurses are all coming from HBCUs. And so I appreciate the president's support for this group of individuals and these colleges and universities because it's significant, it's historic, especially for a Republican president, but he's outdoing Barack Obama. And that's a shocker for a lot of people, but it's the facts. And it's a good thing for the entire country.
Well, he's interested in getting results, and he's certainly done that. And
Period.
I definitely applaud the president for even recognizing historic black colleges and universities and the role that they continue to play in the education of Americans and the quality of graduates they turn out. As I said, I've experienced it myself. Kiara, that answered the phone when you called up, is a graduate of HBCU, Norfolk State, and prior to her, my producer Michael was from Virginia University in Petersburg, and I can go back from there. So we've had tremendous success. But look, I want to thank you, Paris, for being with us. I think the president's going to get 10% of the black vote in 2020. He's not going to lose the 8 he has. He's only going to gain more if he gets 10%. It's over. I mean, it's just over.
I agree, John. Thank you for having me on the show, and I look forward to coming back.
All right. Paris Bernard, part of the I Got Fired from CNN for being too good of a debater along with me. Paris, thanks for being with us.